Oh my God, it's so cool.
We're going over here, buddy.
People who don't vote, people who were not 18 at the last election, people who were not naturalized citizens in the last election, and even people who are not naturalized citizens, we're going to ask them to help out anyway by passing the word out, passing the message out, making calls. You can do a lot, no matter whether you're a citizen or not, no matter whether you're 18 years old or not. And we need people of all descriptions so that we can establish a just America, a good America, an inclusive America, and an America that says that we're going to have a just and fair foreign policy. You know? It says we don't believe in the permanent war machine. We actually believe in diplomacy. We actually believe in helping people around the world develop, not exploiting them and taking advantage of them so a few companies can take their oil or take their sugar or take whatever they got or take their labor. We want a foreign policy that is just, that is fair, and respects people. I'm telling you right now, if we would have a just foreign policy in Central America, people wouldn't want to leave their homes to come here. Where they are, we don't have half the problems that we think we have. The truth is we need a president who understands that, who's truly willing to reflect the will of the people. We're talking about democracy, folks. What we live in now is an undemocratic situation. How would you describe a country? How would you describe a situation where 90% Americans say we should have universal background checks, and yet we can't get them through Congress? It's not democratic. That's not democracy. How would you describe a country where it says, well, we don't believe people should be prosecuted for marijuana, but yet we're doing it all the time? 90% of the people, 80% say we should legalize or at least decriminalize, and yet that is what we're doing. We need to end the phony war of drugs. People agree with me. So let me just say this, you guys. This is real business. You all are here because you believe that we can be better than we are, that we can come together. And I want to just tell you as I begin to wrap up, because I know you guys are ready for Bernie, right? I just want to say that it is important for us all to pay attention. That president who is in the White House makes a big difference. The fact is that the rise in anti-Semitism, anti-Islamophobia, homophobia, all this hate and crime stuff, it has peaked and it is going up under this current president. You know that. And let me tell you, President Trump is not just some routine, ignorant racist. He's a smart racist, to tell you the truth. He is using a tool of manipulation, which started at least during Nixon with the Southern strategy. Moved on to Reagan when he gave his inaugural speech for his campaign in Philadelphia, Mississippi, talking about states' rights. Does anybody know what Philadelphia, Mississippi is famous for? That's where the bodies of Schwerner, Cheney, and Goodman were found. They've been manipulating race for years. And what about Willie Horton? And all these things. So right now, what they used to dog whistle, they now are screaming into a bullhorn. And we need you, and Bernie is leading this fight for human solidarity, to bring people together, to say we are going to be one America, not one America versus another America. It cannot simply be the LGBTQ community standing up for LGBTQ rights. It's going to be all of us standing up with them. Against Islamophobia. We all got to stand up for each other. It cannot just be the Jewish community standing against anti-Semitism. We all have to synagogues, we got a serious problem. When you consider it, Charlottesville, they were saying Jews will not replace us. Don't tell me we don't have an anti-Semitism problem with the white nationalist movement. We got one. And we're going to stand against it, we're going to fight against it, and we're going to use this presidential campaign to defeat it. I just want you to know that they're trying to divide us because divided, we're weaker. Divided, we can't, it's harder to win. If we're fighting each other, how are we ever going to get universal background checks? How are we ever going to get lower these drug prices when these companies are charging us an arm and a leg? How are we ever going to get true Medicare for all, single-payer health care? How are we going to have real climate action and a Green New Deal if we are one divided against another? So Bernie is saying, come together. Unified. All colors, all cultures, and all faiths come together. Yeah. You can't just be non-racist today. You got to be anti-racist. Yeah. You got to be in solidarity. You got to stand up for your fellow citizens, for your fellow residents. We got to stand against this hateful, evil action where this president's trying to turn those of us who were born here against those of us who came here. We've got to understand we cannot have an America where children are caged, where people are put in this level of oppression. And we all have got to stand against it. And I just want to point out, well, that's one word for it, but have you ever heard of an undocumented corporation? No. Because they cross the border as they please, don't they? They can go anywhere between Mexico, United States, and Canada to find the lowest wages, right? But the people, they get stopped at the border. And so this is what you call exploitation. Somebody said open borders, open borders. You know what I'm for? I'm for human solidarity and respecting people. And look, let me tell you, the Immigration Custom Enforcement Organization, it didn't always exist. It didn't exist up until we reestablished the Department of Homeland Security. Are you telling me we cannot do better? Are you telling me we can't have a better way of dealing with human beings? I believe that we can change the situation so we respect human dignity. We respect children. We respect people's rights. I believe we don't have to criminalize and militarize our border. And I think we need to have a border where, you know what, we're reaching to each other, not against each other. We're trying to include people and work together, not lock people up and oppress them. This is the kind of America we all imagine. And what we need is us to work together to fight to build that kind of America. And I just want to, again, as I'm wrapping up, I just want to say to you, we had some tough news over the weekend. I'm just going to tell you about that. Why not be honest, right? The 8th Circuit Court of Appeals just decided that it would be legal in order to say to an LGBTQ couple that if they go to a videographer to get services, that videographer can tell them, no gays allowed, we don't serve your kind. Now the judge who wrote that opinion, was a Trump appointee. And guess what? You know, he did come from Minnesota. And let me just tell you something else. So these presidents, they're very important. We need to fight, you guys, because it was Clarence Thomas who was appointed by George H.W. Bush. And how long has he been gone? The fact that we got to win this race so that we can have a Supreme Court that actually believes in justice, that is one of the big things that's got to motivate us. Because, well, I'm going to tell you right now, we need a president who will help lead that effort. We need to demand that if you are a judge, that you will make decisions based on justice, not based on power and privilege of just a few. This is the challenge that we have in this moment and this time. And you and I both know, with every single 4 years we say, this is the most important election. Don't we always say that? And I'm going to tell you, it's actually true. And here's why. Because as inequality grows wider, the stakes for our society grow higher. As the money-rich hoard more and more to themselves, they impose harsher and harsher conditions on the rest of us. And therefore, the elections the stakes go up. Therefore, the elections get harder for regular people to live in. The division gets worse. And so I just want to say to you guys, I'm glad you're here to support my dear friend and beloved brother, Bernie Sanders.
I came here to campaign for this guy to become your Attorney General. I want you to know that Keith Ellison is redefining what an Attorney General can be.
Thank you, Keith!
Standing up for working people, standing up for justice, fighting discrimination in all forms. Keith, thank you so much. Just begin by thanking all of you for the help you gave me 4 years ago. 4 years ago, we took on the entire political establishment in this state, maybe with the exception of one member of the United States Congress. Then there he was. And you know what? We won. That we won, as Keith indicated, is twofold. Number one, our campaign and what Keith is about speaks to the needs of ordinary people in Minnesota and all over this country. We understand that there's a lot of pain out there. We understand there's a lot of greed out there. We understand there is a lot of exploitation and discrimination out there. And our campaign and our presidency is prepared to take on the powerful special interest and their greed and create an economy and a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. Donald Trump thinks, well, he doesn't think all that much. Donald Trump dash, you fill in the word. And he's going to win re-election doing what demagogues always do. You know what demagogues always do? They pick on people who don't have a lot of political power, people who are minorities. Maybe they are African Americans, maybe they are gay people, maybe they are undocumented people, maybe they're Jews, maybe they're gypsies, wherever the world is, it's a different people. And then you go in, you tell ordinary people, you don't have enough wages, you don't have health. It's the fault of these people. That's what demagogues always do. And he thinks that by dividing us up based on the color of our skin, or where we were born, or our sexual orientation, or our religion, or our gender, he thinks that by dividing us up, he is going to win. Well, we got some bad news for Mr. Trump. Work in Minnesota, and it's not going to work in Vermont, it's not going to work any place in this country, because we understand that when we come together around an agenda that works for all of us, not the 1%, there is nothing that can stop us from victory and from transforming this country in a way that we have to do. Our theme throughout this campaign, obviously, together we are going to defeat the most dangerous president in the history of this country. That goes without saying, but here's the but. We have got to do even more. This is what Keith was talking about. All right, it's not good enough as some say, well, we got to beat Trump. Yeah, we got to beat Trump. But we have to understand how Trump got elected in the first place. And I've said this a million times, and I'll repeat it again. I may offend some people. I believe that it wasn't that Donald Trump won the election, it's that Democrats lost the election. There are too many people out there that working for $9, $10 They're in pain. They're seeing their kids even in worse shape than they are. They can't afford health care. They can't afford to send their kids to college. They are one of the half of people in this country living paycheck to paycheck. They are in pain, and they don't hear candidates listening to their pain. Okay? So what our job is to create an agenda that speaks to the needs of the working class of this country, and to be honest about how we can bring about change. Now the truth is, I can rattle off a million ideas and you would nod your head and say, that's a great idea. But at the end of the day, what our campaign is about is what no other campaign comes close to. And that is an understanding that the only way we bring about real change, the only way that real change has ever taken place in this country, is when millions of people come together in a mass movement to tell the ruling class of this country that they cannot have it all. And that means having the courage to take on the power of Wall Street. Today, I know we don't talk about it, you don't hear this stuff on media, but the question that we have got to ask ourselves is that how does it happen today that you got 3 people in America owning more wealth than the bottom half of people? How does it happen that the top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 92%? How does it happen that all over this country, in Vermont, Minnesota, you got people working 2 or 3 jobs, and yet 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%? How does it happen that a handful of billionaires, Keith talked about democracy, it ain't democracy when a handful of billionaires can spend hundreds of millions of dollars to buy elections. Ain't democracy. That's called oligarchy. So when the message of our campaign is us, not me, that's not just a bumper sticker, although it is a very good bumper sticker. But what that message says is 2 very profound things. What Trump and his friends believe is that human life is about cheating, stealing, stepping on people, doing anything you can. It's not, you're not surprised to know that in his private business life, Trump was involved in some 3,000 lawsuits. In other words, every day he makes an agreement and he breaks the agreement, because that's what it's about. You cheat, you steal, you lie, you just try to do everything you can to make money. We have a different vision of what human life is about. But we understand what human life is about is community, is about my family worrying about your family worrying about my family. The understanding is we're not going to turn our backs on people who are suffering. We are in this together as one part of humanity. Second part of what us, not me, means is something even deeper. And that is an understanding, and again, this is the only campaign that will tell you this, is the understanding that no presidential candidate, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. Because we are taking on uniquely the entire power structure of this country. No president. I can't take on Wall Street alone. I can't take on the drug companies alone. Can't take on the insurance companies alone. Can't take on the fossil fuel industry or the military industrial complex or the prison industrial complex or the corporate media or the 1%. Can't do it all alone. No president can. And that is why we need, as Keith was saying, we need your help not only to win here in Minnesota, not only to win the Democratic nomination, not only to defeat Donald Trump, but the day after we are inaugurated, we have got to really roll up our sleeves and get to work to take on the power structure of America, the corporate elite, that dominates the economic and political life of this country. And we do that by bringing people together around an agenda that speaks to all of us. And I'm very proud, by the way, with your help here in Minnesota, that the ideas that we talked about 4 years ago, which everybody said were radical and extreme, well, guess what? That's what virtually every other Democratic candidate is. I always get this quote a little bit wrong. Nelson Mandela said something that was very profound. He said, everything is impossible until it happens. And that is what the campaign is about. This campaign is about breaking down the limits of our imagination in terms of what this country can be. It is about taking on an establishment which tells us every single day that nothing real can happen. You're making $10 an hour, that's the way it is. You can't afford health care, can't afford to send your kid to college. You're dealing with the realities of climate change. You got a terrible immigration system, broken criminal justice system. You got racism and sexism and blah, blah, blah. That is the way it is. Can't be changed. That's right. And we have a very different vision. And that is what the campaign is about. It is the implementation of a vision of a society based on economic, social, racial, and environmental justice. What does that mean? What does that mean in practical terms? You all know what it means. It means that in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, which is what we are right now, we're going to end the obscene level of income and wealth inequality. Now, the Congress doesn't talk about it. This is what Mandela meant. Nothing happened, it's possible until it happens. Think about it. 3 people in America own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Insane. And many of these large corporations that make billions in profit don't pay a nickel in federal income tax. So what we are talking about is making sure, for a start, that if you work 40 hours a week in America, you earn at least a living wage of $15 an hour. It means that we are going to make it easier for people to join unions. It means that we will end the absurdity of women making 80 cents on the dollar compared to men. It means that we will create millions of jobs rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. It means that all of us know, everybody knows, the future of this country is in education. Think about it for a moment. Again, think outside of the box. Take a step back. You're living in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. Every psychologist will tell you that 0 through 4 are the most important years of intellectual and emotional development. And yet, knowing that, we have a disgracefully bad child care system. So you got working families who cannot afford child care. They're out, mom's out, dad's out working. They can't afford child care. And often the people who take care of their kids make less money than a McDonald's worker. So we got to rethink these things and say that our children are our most precious people. And that the folks who work with those children are doing enormously important work. So we're going to have universal, high-quality, affordable child care and pay the workers who do that work a living wage. All over this country, you have public school systems that are hurting, especially in minority areas, especially in low-income areas. You have states like Oklahoma, where because of budgetary reasons, children are going to school 4 days a week. Right? So we have situations where underpaid teachers are literally taking money out of their own limited salaries to buy school supplies. This is insane again. We are going to invest and invest significantly in public education. No teacher in America should make less than $60,000 a year. Triple funding for low-income Title I schools. When we talk about education, talk about education, something I talked about 4 years ago, and I said, you know what, you got to rethink what public education means. It's no longer good enough to talk about free public education being K through 12. We've got to make public colleges and universities tuition free. And guess what? All over the country, that is exactly what is happening. We're making progress in that area. Not only college, but training schools for kids who want to be carpenters or sheet metal workers or plumbers. They need that training in order to go out and get the insurance. And then another issue that we are talking about, and mark my words, other people will jump on this one, and that is to say that at a time when the younger generation, for the first time in modern American history, will, until we turn it around, have a lower standard of living than their parents, we are going to cancel all student debt. We want to greatly expand Pell Grants and work-study programs for anybody in this country, but we want to do historically black colleges and universities. We want to do all of those things. That's expensive. It is. How are you going to pay for it? Tell you how. We're going to put a tax on Wall Street speculation. You all remember 11 years ago we bailed out the crooks on Wall Street. Last year, Wall Street made $100 billion in profit. It is time for them to help the working class of this country. And then there is another issue out there which really defines who we are as a people. All of you know that every other major country on earth guarantees health care to all of their people as a right. We don't.
Developed countries.
We have a system today that is not only broken, not only dysfunctional, it is a very cruel system. It is a system which says, number one, that 87 million Americans, including many in this room, are either uninsured or underinsured with high deductibles and high co-pays. It is a system that allows 30,000 people a year to die because they don't get to a doctor when they should die unnecessarily. It is a system, listen to this, think about it, come on. This year, 500,000 Americans will go bankrupt because they were diagnosed with cancer, or serious heart disease, or Alzheimer's, or another terrible illness. In a civilized, democratic society, people should not go bankrupt because they are suffering from a terrible illness. That is insane. And in the midst of this dysfunctionality, in the midst of all of this pain, the healthcare industry last year made $100 billion in profit. That's the insurance companies and the drug companies. They make huge profits while 30,000 people die, while elderly people cannot afford the prescription drugs they need. It is time, in fact the time is long overdue, for us to understand that the function of a rational healthcare system is to guarantee health care to all people in a cost-effective way, not to make huge profits for the insurance companies and the drug companies. Now, this health care system, and by the way, please know, that we are now spending. People ask me, say, Bernie, how are you going to pay for it? Guess what? You're paying for it right now. We are spending twice as much per capita on healthcare as do our friends in Canada or any other industrialized nation. So what we are going to do is not only move to a Medicare for all single-payer system, freedom of choice with regard to doctors and hospitals, no premiums, no co-payments, no out-of-pocket payments, none. You go to any doctor you want, you don't take out your wallet. You have a serious health issue, you're in the hospital, you come out without doing anything. And we are going to take on the pharmaceutical industry and make sure that no American spends more than $200 a year for the prescription drugs he or she needs. I wish I could tell you that this is a radical, brilliant idea that I thought of. It ain't. Although I did write the damn bill, I will tell you. Is if you go to Canada right now and you have a heart transplant, something that would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in America that would bankrupt many families. You know what it costs in Canada? Zero! And they manage to spend 50% per person on healthcare as we do. So that is a struggle, and I want to tell you what's going to happen. The pharmaceutical industry and the drug companies, who made $100 billion last year, will spend many, many hundreds of millions of dollars fighting us, lying about what Medicare for All is about, attacking me personally. Right? But I believe that at the end of the day, if we stand together with the nurses and the doctors and the ordinary people who understand that this current system is only working for the people who own the system, if we stand together and demand what every other major country has, we in fact will pass a Medicare for all single-payer program. There's one other issue I want you to think about. I want you to think about. All right, well, everybody has a relative in Los Angeles. What about you? Here's some serious. I want you to think about an issue which kind of speaks to everything that this campaign is about. Donald Trump, our brilliant scientist in the White House. A man, if you ask him, will tell you that he is one of the smartest people on the planet. He thinks that climate change is a hoax. Now, when Trump says something as ignorant as that, not only endangers our own country, but in fact endangers the entire planet. Because I know that every person in this room understands that climate change is not a hoax, but it is a deadly reality, that it is caused by human activity, that it is already causing devastating problems in our country and around the world. Man, I just was up the other day. I went to Paradise, California. You all know what happened in Paradise? It was unbelievable. It was literally like a small nuclear bomb had dropped in that community. You saw cars and trucks that were burned out. The heat was so intense, steel was melting. 86 people in a small town died, 18,000 buildings were destroyed, $16 billion in damage in one town of 26,000 people caught up in this horrific fire in the West Coast. But the scientists tell us, this is tough stuff. The scientists tell us that we have fewer than 12 years in order to get our act together in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy, or else there will be irreparable damage done in our country and around the world. Irreparable damage that we can never recover from. All of you know that the last 5 years, warmest years on record, warmest July of any month on record. We're looking at more droughts, more floods, more acidification of the ocean, more rising sea levels, more extreme weather disturbances. This is what we're facing. And the only way, the only chance that we have to save this planet is to move in an aggressive and bold manner, which tells the fossil fuel industry that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of our planet. It says that we have a moral responsibility to make sure that the planet we leave our kids and grandchildren and future generations is a planet that is healthy and is happy. So what we have got to do here, there is no middle ground on this issue. I wish I could tell you, I really do. Well, you know, we'll put a little bit more money into solar, a little bit more money into wind, you know, this standard and that standard. I can't tell you that. What we are facing is a global crisis, not just an American crisis. So what a president of the United States must do, and I hope that president is Bernie Sanders, is to tell the rest of the world, the people in China and in India and in Russia and all over this world, that instead of spending $1.5 trillion every year on weapons of destruction designed to kill each other, we've got to use those resources and come together against our common enemy, which is climate change.